Hello guys, this is Movie Lover and welcome to this Movie Lover world. Today we're going through a drama romance movie called Sleeping Beauty. The opening scene shows Lucy, a university student, in the lab serving as a test research subject. Afterward she goes to the bathroom to clean up. After some hours Lucy can be seen working in a restaurant. Up next Lucy is seen in a bar. She goes to the bathroom with an acquaintance to puff some whitish powder. After they leave the bathroom, they go over to two men sitting in the bar. And they talk. Moments later Lucy leaves the bar. The next morning Lucy greets her sister, but ignores her sister's boyfriend. Momentarily her sister's boyfriend asks Lucy for the house rent and also tells her to wash the bathroom since it's her turn to do so. After cleaning the bathroom she goes to her room feeling exhausted and sleeps. The next day Lucy is at one of her multiple workplaces. When she gets a call from her mother, then she goes over to the apartment of Birdman, an alcoholic. Apparently Lucy is in charge of taking care of him. Birdman and Lucy sit down and have a chat where Birdman confesses his love to Lucy. Up next Lucy goes to a payphone to make a call about an ad she saw in a newspaper. Sometime later Lucy meets Clara, a model director. Clara explains the job description to Lucy. Lucy is told that the job is bold modeling, but Clara assures her that she will never be penetrated. Clara tells Lucy that she will be paid on a freelance basis and she will work with other girls. Clara warns her not to breach any term of the contract or else there will consequences. In addition, Clara advises Lucy to spend her money wisely. After explaining everything to Lucy, Clara and Thomas, Clara's assistant examines Lucy physically. Then Clara asks her about any of her allergies, and if she is in the use of substances. Lucy replies everything she is asked, and Clara tells her she will have to see their doctor to confirm any use of substances. Finally Lucy has asked for her mobile number, which she gives willingly. Moments later, as Lucy prepares to leave, Clara informs her that she will call her Sarah for anonymity. The next scene shows Lucy getting a pedicure and a hot massage. Up next Lucy goes to see Birdman. Upon getting there Lucy serves both of them a drink and they have a chat. Sometimes later at the dinner party Lucy is the only girl dressed in white lingerie while the others are in black. The hosts are attended by the girls. While serving, one of the men intentionally trips Lucy, causing her to fall. Shortly afterward Lucy receives her pay and leaves. Upon getting home she puffs a cigarette as she counts her money. Excited by the amount she just made, Lucy burns one of the currency notes. On another workday Lucy shows up in her regular white lingerie. A little while later Lucy is seen in a bar making advances towards a man. The next day she goes to Birdman's apartment. While inside Lucy makes a joke with Birdman, asking him if he would like to marry her, and Birdman says it will be a pleasure. Afterward Birdman tells Lucy that he thinks he is ready for a detox, and seconds later they watch a wildlife documentary together. The next morning on her way to school Lucy receives a call from Clara's assistant informing her of her promotion and the increase in her wage. Later that evening Clara's assistant comes over to pick Lucy up in a car and drives her to Clara's. Upon arriving Lucy is directed to the bathroom by Clara to clean up. That night Lucy has served a sedative mixed in a tea. Clara tells her that she will sleep through the whole session and will not remember anything when she wakes up. Clara also adds that Lucy will only feel the effect of a hangover the next morning and nothing else. After taking the sedative Lucy falls asleep on a bed after finding out her worker was asleep. Clara and a man come in before Clara leaves. However, the man tells her a story relating it to his own life. After the story Clara explains the rules to the man once again and tells him that everything else is allowed except penetration. When Clara leaves, the man with nothing on lays beside Lucy. He does everything he desires for her. The following morning Lucy leaves the apartment and she is driven home in a car. On getting home Lucy sees a note on the table written by her sister's boyfriend. Told her she will have to leave the apartment if she can't pay her rent. After 2 weeks Lucy's sister tells her that she is sorry. Sometime later Lucy goes ahead to rent a beautiful apartment. In her apartment Lucy is having a hard time sleeping and she starts to feel the trauma of her sessions. At one of her afternoon jobs Lucy calls Clara's assistant asking him if there's any job session available. He promises to call her as soon as an opportunity arises. Up next Lucy is seen carrying out research in the lab when she gets a call from Thomas. In the next scene Clara is seen lying down on the bed in preparation for another session. Clara and another man walk into the room while Lucy is asleep. And Clara explains to the man that no penetration is allowed. With the departure of Clara the man gets down to his business while smoking. He burns Lucy with the cig, but she is fast asleep with everything going on and The man whispers to Lucy that he will bang her hard. On her way home the next day Lucy feels the pain from last night's cig burn. Up next Lucy rushes out of class after she gets an emergency call concerning Birdman. She rushes down to Birdman's apartment. Upon getting to the apartment, she comforts Birdman who is in pain from an overdose of painkillers. Unfortunately for poor Birdman he dies moments later in Lucas' arms. After some time Lucy cleans up the furniture in the restaurant where she works. At Birdman's funeral Lucy makes the same joke she usually does with Birdman by asking her ex-boyfriend if he will marry her. He takes it seriously and rants at Lucy, telling her that she's had her chance, and adds that he has a girlfriend now. In the next scene Lucy is in another of her sessions, but this time, the client struggles to pleasure himself. The next morning Lucy arrives at one of her workplaces to receive news that she has been fired. Lucy feels no remorse and tells her boss, "Thank you." Lucy then goes to a store to buy a mini recording device which she tests in class. Lucy wakes up after she receives a call from Thomas to come outside to the apartment. However, before she leaves she hides the mini recording device on her body. On her way to Clara's apartment Lucy throws up on the road due to the effects of the pills she took. Upon arriving at the apartment Clara asks Lucy if she's fine and she says yes. While Clara is preparing Lucy's sedative drink for her Lucy asks to see what's always going on in the room when she's asleep, even if it's just this one time. Clara refuses her request, explaining to her that she cannot expose her clients to potential blackmail. Clara tells her it's not the way they do things. Afterward Clara asks her if she's in a good condition before giving her the sedative and she says yes. However, unknown to Clara, Lucy has planted the mini recording device in the room before she passes out. Moments later Clara and her client, who turns out to be the first man walking, Clara prepares a sedative drink for her client for his request and leaves the room afterward. The following morning Clara comes into the room. She shows no surprise or remorse after checking the man's pulse and seeing that he is dead. She tries to wake Lucy but Lucy doesn't budge. Just then Clara rushes over to her and revives her using mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Upon waking up Lucy discovers the dead man beside her, causing her to scream and cry. The movie ends by showing the same scene, captured by the hidden camera. The camera shows Lucy as she sleeps peacefully beside the dead man. Thanks for watching guys. Movie Lover will meet you again with new story. Till take care.